Hello there, welcome to our next game, Rage. In this video, we're going to go over things in the environment that I see or notice that describe the storytelling of the game. But anyway, let's get started with the first thing, the cutscene. Now here we have Apophis, the asteroid, moving through Saturn's rings and actually hitting the moon in the next shot. We'll come back to this moon section later on in the game, but apparently Apophis is a real asteroid. And in 2029, it's going to come around Earth, and you'll be able to see it for maybe a few seconds as a fast-moving point of light. So, keep your eyes open for that in the future. Now, Apophis hits the planet and causes a global extinction event. In order to escape this, people are put in these arcs. Now, these arc survivors will come back up when the asteroid's effects are long gone. And there are 7 in each arc. And they bury themselves as the asteroid is about to hit in order to protect them from the outside. But what they don't know is when the asteroid does hit, it causes a lot of them to resurface at the top. And one of the examples is our arc. The one we wake up on is damaged. The life support is out, the cryogenics is badly damaged. And the other 6 survivors have basically died in their chambers. And as we leave the arc, we actually get ambushed by a ghost member. These are bandits scattered around the wasteland, and each of the bandits has a specific characteristic to them. We'll get back to the ghost when we get to the lair, but this is the first instance of a bandit group we meet. And we are saved by this guy, who we don't know his name yet. And he takes out the bandits for us and tells us to hitch a ride with him back to his safe house. On the dashboard, we can actually see a Doom bobblehead. We eventually get back to his garage. And the interesting thing about this game is the environment has very little or no readable letters. A lot of it's 2D or blurry. And that's because this game does a lot of visual and audio storytelling. Example, through the characters. So a lot of things we see, or I'll show you, will have to do with that. And by visual storytelling, I mean the character designs, as most of the characters have their own designs. As far as I remember, there's no duplicates besides the bandit groups we fight. Every character in these settlements is different. There's also attention to detail in the weapons. As we open up the revolver, we can see 12 shots in it, and that is how many shots are actually usable. But next to this guy, we have a soda machine, which I like showing you soda machines because they're always different in every game. This is Cola Kong, and we can't read any of the labels besides the ones that say soda. Now there are things written on walls like posters, banners, and all that. I didn't say there wasn't any, it's just that most of it isn't there. Mixom, for example, was a company that made seals and space equipment to Doom 3. In this game, I think they are a fuel station or gas company. But it's interesting, they are this game and that game with the same name. Are they in the same universe? There are examples of other things in this universe that are the same in Doom. Now this settlement, or most settlements, only like locals, as you can't trust anyone outside. But I think this is just graffiti, as everyone I meet is very nice to me. But most of the settlers live in old buildings that used to be owned by others. Ray's Oasis, for example, used to be owned by a guy named Ray. We're given a mission to go to the ghost hideout and basically wipe them out. And the ghosts have a specific characteristic to them. They tend to have weird symbols written on walls, which remind you a lot of the Doom symbols by the imps that were summoned. And they put up these symbols all over their territory. There's a mix of ancient handwritings on the walls and stuff that people in caves used to draw. But not many words are written by these people. They can speak, as one of their bosses does kidnap us, but maybe they can't write. They have scarecrows set up at the front door to make anyone who wants to come inside more hesitant on it. But that's not even the worst part of this clan. Their imagery on art is very demonic as well, with their sharpened teeth and bloodshot eyes. They also have white on their skin, which looks to be artificially put on there, like the sand they pick off the floor and rub on themselves to make them more pale looking. They remind me a lot of the Mad Max bandits. The boys, I think they're called. But once we get inside, we see more skulls set up in a ceremonial or scare tactic for anyone coming in. There's also meteors painted in the background, as they have the asteroid as part of their culture, most likely a rebirth of some kind. And that asteroid is depicted by a skull bringing death to everyone around. Getting off topic, we have sodas again from two machines here, King Cola and Neptune, which looks to be maybe a competitor or maybe a distilled water machine of some kind. But here's a close-up of a ghost member. They have white on the shoulders, head, and even on their feet. As I was getting closer to their main headquarters, I found this on the wall, some kind of pictograph. On the top we have the asteroid, Apophis. The bottom I think is Earth and the moon on the right side. The top left of it, I don't know. The left and right side, I have no clue what those are. So either they put this up as their history, some kind of cycle maybe, or it's just complete BS by the developers. But we do eventually meet the leader of the ghosts, and he tosses us down into the bathroom. And this is where they keep all the bodies. Now the ghosts are actually cannibals. They collect the wastelanders to feast on their corpses to survive, which I think makes them the worst of the bandits in this area. Moving off topic, we're in the upper levels here of the ghost base. This guy's desk has a TV on it. A really uncomfortable place to put a TV. But we eventually solve that crisis, and I run into a bunch of Wasted clan members. Now the Wasted, we'll get to them later on, but I wanted to show you the guns disappearing because you can't pick them up. Now going back to the lore for the Wasted. They are clan members that act British. They might not be British, they might be. I don't know. But they write on the walls, as usual, these bandits do, their identity, you could say. Though more in line with drinking. They have a alcohol problem, as their name suggests. And in one of their bases, I found a toilet, which is a bucket. But more important is the flower growing next to the bucket. We don't actually see a lot of plants in the wasteland. Most of them have died out. So this could be one of the few left out there. And above the bucket, we actually have writing from these guys. And remember, the ghosts didn't actually write anything. The Wasted do write stuff, but their letters are usually backwards. As you remember, the A and the S in the Wasted was upside down or backwards. Here we have the R backwards here. And P looks like they're using the epsilon symbol. Now there is a side mission in this area to reactivate the antenna. And you're asked to find a missing person who's called Juno. And Juno, for some reason, wrote on his helmet his name. So it might have been a dev thing to help you. Oh yeah, this is Juno. Because a lot of these bodies, the worker bodies, look exactly the same. But once we get to the settlement, to see the second settlement you unlock, we have a mix-up box for the model A2515. Now this just tells me that Mixom isn't a gas company. It's a parts company. Most likely they do the same work as they do in Doom 3. So they could be making sealants for other things than space equipment. Another logo for you in the same area, RBR National. Closest thing I got is Simulated Racing Events by Richard Burns. Now, cool thing about the characters in the game, when they're wearing helmets, they have a modified voice like the characters in T-45 Power Armor in Fallout.
If you got business here, go and talk to Richter. He's the man in charge.
Also, if I remember this correctly, most of the characters either have headgear or are bald. I don't know why. It's just a thing. But as we're getting our new mission from the lady here, Janice, we can actually see a note fully written that was given to us to get medical supplies. And usually we don't see things like this. We're just told to go get medical supplies, but never what's in it. But in order to get those medical supplies, we need to go to the Wasted headquarters again. And I want to show you some close-up of them. And they're all bald, as you can see. But the Wasted have bloodshot red eyes. And I'm not sure if that's because I shot them in the face or if they're always wasted. They have writing on their bodies, which I can't really read because the letters are just incoherent. Most have the British Union Jack on them. But before doing that mission, I wanted to go do this mutant mission. And I saw on the motors this wording here, these codes, I guess. I can't figure out what it means, but if you can, let me know. But right before we're about to leave the settlement, we get a new buggy. Before I take that buggy to the next settlement, I see this vintage soda machine. King Cola, cold, 10 cents. But in order to get the buggy, we have to go back to the next settlement and get a part for it. But while there, I look up and see the moon, showing exactly where Apophis hid it. And in the next settlement, we were assigned to get that part from the bandits who took the part. And the bandits who took it are the Wasted. And inside their little settlements, we have this door that's electrified by a battery. Now I thought, you have to turn it off, right? Just unplug the wire or shoot the wire. But you can't do that. So we have to make our way around to go unplug this thing. And I see a door here with a bunch of people on it. Are these family members or maybe people they've taken out? But as we're getting closer to that objective, I find a few things here. This mile marker that has a bunch of numbers on it that don't explain what they are. And this little Easter egg that says Quaker Junction 8, which Quaker Junction 8 could be referring to the Final Fantasy mod manager. But who knows? I thought I had to do it quick, the game. Past that room, we reach a man sweeping the floor, which, judging by all the debris everywhere, he's never going to finish. And so we clear that room out, and we reach a throne room. Apparently it's owned by Mr. Scary, but it says do not enter Mr. Scary, so maybe that person's not allowed here. They also have a stop sign that says stop the juice. Next to Mr. Scary's bathroom, we have this Tommy and Jenny love confession or written note on the wall. Now this could refer to the song group 867-5309/Jenny. But other than that, I don't know. Now the Wasted write some weird sayings on the walls, including this one. Now this saying could be from a song, but I could not figure out which one, so if you could help me out there. Once you get further down the garage, however, you start a boss fight with one of the vehicles that has a machine gun on top of it. And so you're fighting and figure you have to shoot this a bunch of times when he appears his head. You can also flip this switch which sends a explosive container above him, and you can basically one-shot him. Now going all the way back after completing that, we go to the first settlement, and I see on their clipboard a bunch of writings and a photo of a car. Now this exact clipboard will be the same on almost every clipboard throughout the game. Now we get to the third and the biggest settlement in the game, or I guess on the surface. And we see a bunch of mayor photos of the previous mayors. Some look to be war veterans, administrators, but the current one looks to be like a oil baron of sorts. And this building is an original oil baron or oil company owner office. So the mayor sends us to the bar to look around, to meet the people. And I see a few missing posters and rewards for them. There's also an Authority Forces poster on the wall here. The Authority come later in the game. However, interestingly enough, the security here is very relaxed, as we could see him sleeping on the job. But once we get into the bar, we have a comic book this guy's reading, which I think could be from the game Doom or from the game Rage. There are comic books for Rage that take place before the game, the main game. If you want to see those on this channel, let me know. It's also interesting in the bar, you can tell who's a main character or a story character. And this lady in the corner is one of those, Elizabeth. She's looking at a map and you cannot talk to her at all. But she gives the vibe that she's important to the story. Once we're done with all this serious talking in there, I feel like we need to let some steam off, so we go gambling. In this game, you stand in the middle, roll 4 dice, and if one is white with a crosshair, that's a hit. A black skull is a miss. And you have 3 chances to give 4 crosshairs, otherwise you lose. And the sooner you get those 4, the bigger your bonus. So if you get all 4 on the first time, it's 10 times the amount you bet. In my case, 25. However, if you get to the last one, 1 times bonus, you just get your bet back. After winning some impressive money from that game, I turned around to see meat hanging from the ceiling here. And interestingly enough, I never saw any animals in the game. We have chickens and cow carcasses here. Maybe even a pig or 2. But no animals are actually seen in the game. I think I saw some birds, but other than that, I'm not really sure. Continuing my tour around the town, I see a sealed door by the Authority. It seems to be sealed by something called Act 60. We'll get to the Authority more, but they are the most powerful group in the Wasteland at the moment. Trying to find more information about the Authority, I run into my friend here, Dylan, who seems to have a lot of tattoos on his body, including one that says he loves his mom. And I see a poster on the wall that says no shoes, no shirt, no mutants, which every mutant I've met so far can't talk, so I don't even think they could read this. But none of that helped me. I actually went back to the bar to turn in some side missions, and I see the security again is sleeping. But after turning that in, I actually go to my main objective. I have to get a sponsorship for the race. And so I go to this game show host who has a lot of money, J.K. Styles. And above Styles, you can actually see the intro for the id Studio. On my way back, I take a look at the skyscrapers, see a few company logos, Shed, RK, and the biggest in the area, Mixum. And once that's all done, I secure myself a new car and have to go take out the new bandits. Now these bandits are called the Shrouded. And the Shrouded prefer to use bombs and technology to fight people. And they have these little RC cars driving through the pipes. And the Shrouded are one of the most intelligent groups of bandits in the Wasteland. But taking a closer look at their armor, they seem to have customized some kind of welts in their armor maybe. I'm not sure what these bubbles are. Maybe explosives? But once we destroy their main base, we get to a Filtrite mine. So Filtrite is the material that came in with the asteroid. And this material is so valuable that it can turn weapons, ammo, and other things into stronger versions of themselves. So the Shrouded are mining this, and we're here to basically get a sample of it. And once we secured it, I go back to the tunnel and see a bunch of adverts on the wall with the Chokely, which I'm not really sure what this does. Does it choke you? Maybe it's a holographic screen that goes in your face, all around your neck. But behind that, we have a car poster that's saying you can breathe easier. So maybe it's a hybrid or maybe an electric car. They even have posters for the railroads. And something called a neurosphere, which is some maybe advanced AI programming or some processor like a i9 chip. On that same road, I stopped to see these signs, and we see New Eden, which is the city's name or a location in the city. There's also a gun barrel, which is weird. But once we get back to town, I get the mayor the sample we collected, and I see this guy outside trying to fill up his bucket or maybe fix this leaking, I don't know, a fountain, I guess. I think it's one of those things you pee in, but what do I know? But we're told the sample can't be analyzed and we have to take it back to a scientist out in the boonies. And the scientist uses fast food ordering system to talk to him. And inside we meet the scientist. And it seems he's gone blind. And the robot on his shoulder is his seeing eye robot. One thing I want to note is the robot makes its own head movements, like nodding and disapproving, while looking at the guy. Is he doing a bit where the robot looks like it's its own thing? Or does the robot have a chip in it, but is controlled both by the bot and the person for eyes? Double vision in a way? Now he tells us we have to go to the dead city in order to get some equipment that he needs to analyze. So we get to the dead city, which is the remains of the city, but everything inside is basically there to kill you, like the mutants. And there are a few billboards there, extreme bike races, and Home Sweet Home, which as far as I can tell is a car or maybe a city advertisement. They also recycled here, but have no trash cans. next to it. Are they purely running on recycling? One of the very first buildings we come across, I see this symbol on the wall. I'm not sure who it belongs to, but there is a secret Scorchers group that isn't in the game. Apparently they were cut, and I'm being told this is the symbol for their group. And these Scorchers, as you can tell, use fire more than any other bandit group to intimidate the people around them. But that is speculation. And in the Dead City, we have basically memories of the past. Photos, posters, newspapers, a bunch of things lying around from the dead. We also have, it looks like, Chinatown, or Little Asia, as some places are. And some kind of red symbols. Reminds me a lot of the communist flag. You can also see a glimpse of the hospital we're going to, and a helicopter hanging over the side. And most of the photos are from the development team. And as I said, this has like a Asian influence, as there are Asian letters on top of English. So a lot more people spoke other languages than English in this area. But a few places to note is a bistro, a BG burger, a hemp cellar, and a few other locations that aren't that important. But in this area we fight a giant mutant, which has a octopus hand attached to it. And that mutant comes out of this room here, which is covered with gore. We can see skeletons of cows or some kind of four-legged mammal. But what is this giant growth at the top here? It reminds you a lot of the game Doom, doesn't it? But on our way to the hospital, we see a bunch of more signs for other stores, including Centec. I think Centec sells refrigerators or drinks, because their name is written on refrigerators. And that's the most I can gather from them, because there's not a lot of information out there, as the game doesn't have any notes. But we eventually get to the basement, and the basement is covered in this black growth. It looks more like mold. And this growth has taken over a bunch of bodies. They do come alive and attack us, but they look like something out of the Aliens movie. The bodies being green and jellified. The floors are just covered with them. And that area leads us to the mall. And in the mall I find a poster. It says 50% less on Rage 2 and Doom 5. Now, both of these have come out in a way. Rage 2 has obviously come out. And Doom 5 doesn't actually have a name called Doom 5, but there are more than 5 Dooms now. And Centec keeps confusing me, as I cannot figure out what they actually sell, as they have another sign next to them, talking about 50% off electronics. Are they an electronics store, or do they sell other things? In the food court, however, we have Guacamolito, Mama's Bistro again, and a few soda names as we've seen throughout the game. Now that green mold growth isn't the only thing spreading around this area. We actually have this fleshy red growth, if you remember fighting a tentacle monster from before. Now this growth is spreading throughout this whole hospital area, and I'm not really sure what is causing it. The mutants, however, seem to not notice it and are enjoying their daily life picking through the trash and eating off the floor. They seem to roam in groups as well. There are remnants of news organizations on this road, so something was happening here right before the asteroid hit, maybe something at the hospital. On the road above that, we have a sign that tells us there's a stadium downtown. Also, some of the signs seem to be floating in midair. But once we finally reach the hospital, we can see signs of experiments that were run on people, with tables used to hold their heads down, often for injections or some sort of scans maybe. The hospital also has a bank section, and I think it's the bank because I later on see this exact same quote on the bank, but it does have some kind of Osmatov Corporation above this one. It says, "Your money is ours." That's bad marketing for your corporation. As we're getting closer to the objective, we can see the rooms just covered in gore and bleeding from the walls. It makes it feel like you're in a Doom game. And the mayor says he has another problem with the sewer system, and so we go to check that out. And in the sewers, the ghosts have moved in and are poisoning the water. And the ghosts, as you remember, like to collect bodies for cannibalization. But we eventually wipe the ghosts out and save the water system. And we meet up with the girl in the bar I told you about, and she tells us to go rescue her captain from the prison, the leader of the resistance group. another ARC survivor. And this prison is called Stone Mountain Correctional Facility. Now, as far as I know, Stone Mountain doesn't have a correctional facility, at least in this universe. And the Authority have these consoles that show you the subway systems for some reason. And the Authority have a major flaw in my eyes. When they're dropping off their support units to attack us, you can actually shoot them in midair with their jetpacks and cause them to go flying in the air. It only takes one shot. And there are tiny corporation stickers all over the place. This one, TT, Killing Type, storage company, or maybe box company. And after we free the leader of the resistance, we get back to town and we see a new monolith to the Authority here. And this is a listening post the Authority uses in order to get crimes reported to them. And we see a drone and I run away before it actually scans me. And we're told by the resistance to go back to our ARC and get a data piece. This tells us our name, our designation, Omega 5. That's the code name of what we're doing. And we take this to the doctor and he tells us he could fix our defibrillator for us, make it better. And so he sends us to the sewer. And so I find this code on the wall of DNA sequences, which I'm not gonna lie, I can't decode this. In the subway we find a bunch of posters here that I missed on the surface or weren't there. The next presidential candidate, Owen. However, we don't know the other candidate's name. And once we get back to the base, the resistance leader tells us we have to leave as we're about to get caught by the Authority. And so we head to the new city. And this city has a above ground and underground layer. The above ground we never actually go to. Maybe that's an old settlement and they had to go deeper below. But as we come in, we meet the new members of the resistance. Sard here is an analyst, and on his computer screens, you can see a hard drive compared to the SSD disk we have. These guys are less advanced, but they have more advanced technology. Further proof that they didn't really know what we would have in 2020s. The other member who's researching mutants has one on the table here, and you can see they have multiple toes where they shouldn't be, and growths all over their body. And the growths look to be cut open, and inside it's like a web or beehive structure. And so we're tasked with meeting the new leader of this settlement in order to get in good favors with him, Redstone, who has a bobblehead on his table here. And it's a bobblehead of Blake Griffin, who is from the NBA Rookie of the Year team. And he was put in the game after id Software was convinced to put him in there. The mayor gives us a mission, but before we get to that, we see a bunch of wanted posters from the bandit members. Top left is the wasted gang leader. Top right, the ghost leader. The bottom four are from the remaining members of the other clans. One of them is a cut character. And while I was talking around the settlement, getting information, a guy just comes up to me and starts staring at me. It made me really uncomfortable and hard to focus on this man as he's describing his life story. There's also a job board that you can do in other settlements, but I ignored. And there are photos of people on them. Now, judging by all the posters, they're printed on ink instead of written. They must have a working machine somewhere. And we're sent into the subway line to destroy the mutants coming in. And in that area, I find a Doom Cup. But in order to get to that area where the mutants are, we have to go through the bathrooms. And I see a Mr. Scary written on the wall here. So we have a lot of repeating words all over the game. So that's why it's a little hard for me to take everything at face value. Mr. Scary could just be a placeholder for another area. But we eventually destroy the mutants and close the subway so they can't get in anymore. And I find this man, Beatrice, who is wearing World War I attire with the Iron Cross. He sends us to go get alcohol, about 2 jars. And I find this little area with looks like bodies and moss growing. Someone wrote the word Gloria here, spelled incorrectly. And we get inside the brewery, and I see a bunch of cans here. Blueberry pie, cat food, a whole bunch of things you would think when you think apocalypse. Basically eating out of cans, eating dog food or cat food. And this area is where someone was surviving for a time. That someone could have been this man in his bucket, which I'm pretty sure almost everyone would have not seen, as there is no blood or anything. And this man probably set up these buckets to catch rain, but I see no evidence of it ever raining here, or anywhere in the wasteland. But we eventually get the alcohol and get back to Beatrice. And we go back to the main missions, and the mayor, Redstone, tells us to go to the bank and collect a sample that the gearheads have in their bank vault. Now, the gearheads have some BS armor because they're just wearing umpire uniforms from baseball. And I'll show you as this guy's running at me how many bullets I put in him. The gearheads are a Eastern Russian sounding group, and they really like their machinery. They're actually the most intelligent group, the most gifted in technological savviness. If they weren't a bandit group, they could probably have a really big settlement, but each their own, I guess. And their graffiti writing is very different from other groups, as they write circuit boards or electricity pathways as graffiti. And we deal with them and get back to the settlement, and I find another poster about Owen. Someone put "Knowin" and crossed his head out. It could be just graffiti, or maybe someone in the past didn't like him. But in order to get to the next area, we're required to get a new vehicle. And so to get that, we had to talk to Starkey, who seems to have started a rival competition with us, which I've never done the races, so I don't know who the hell he is. And he's talking smack in my face. Makes it sound like he's a stalker if you've never raced before. But once we get that vehicle, the mayor tells us that the gearheads are still causing trouble. So we go to the power plant to put them down completely. And in the power plant, we find a whiteboard with their drawings on it, which I don't understand. I guess I'm not as smart as a bandit. Around the facility, they have these writings that says "Don't turn this off," which I immediately shoot. And it does nothing. But once you almost wipe the gearheads out, it's basically a few remnants left after their boss is taken down. I run into this guy who sounds like his mic was recorded last second by the dev team, which I thought was pretty funny.
Hey you! The power's relayed, but we gotta keep it that way. Get that control panel working and help our people out. Give those bastards a taste of their own medicine.
And they probably quickly recorded that because they forgot about it. But after we swiftly put down the gearheads, we leave the power plant and go back to Redstone to report our findings. And we get there and find Redstone's office guarded by the Authority. Redstone is most likely gone or arrested. And so we leave and talk to Resistance members, and they tell us we have to go and find a arc piece in order to activate the arc locator, which finds other arcs. Now this arc piece is located in an arc in the Jackal territory. And the Jackals remind me a lot of the Mad Max people, as they have white writing on their black walls and caves. They also don't talk much. They use melee a lot instead of weapons. Some do have weapons, 90% don't. And they do a lot of jumping around. And some of them even sound like Tarzan when they're coming in. But the Jackals aren't really a threat when they have no guns. And we get the arc equipment. And in this arc you can see all the arcs are empty. Where are they? Well, they woke up and the first people they met were the Jackals. And the Jackals, as you see, aren't very friendly. And so they were all killed. We take this piece of arc equipment back to the base, and we can see the whole map of where the arcs are. Now, counting the arcs by myself is about 245. Now, if you remember, there are 7 survivors per arc. So that means there are 1,715 arc survivors that could be used. And we are arc survivor. And so you see how much mayhem we've done. Imagine letting them all out. They could potentially change the world. And if you remember that subway line we blew up, they were expanding it. And so they put up this sign here, which is very professional, this wasteland group. But over time, the Authority moves in, and they set up their own cars and scanners and soldiers all over the station. And so we eventually have to leave to infiltrate their base and stop whatever the hell is happening here. And their base is located in a ocean, or what's left of it. As you can see, ships here degraded away. Once we infiltrate, we find these BFG rounds, which in Doom 3 and Doom, we have the BFG 9000, a reference to that. And there's no actual boss fight in this game, which is a little disappointing, but we activate all these sensors, and it tells us the location of the arcs. And so after turning that on, the arcs are told to resurface all over the world, which leads us to Rage 2. But that's pretty much it for this game. I was a little disappointed there was no boss fight at the end. The minigun they give you pretty much wipes anything out. They had no chance. Story is very linear, not much happening. Resistance group fights bigger group, and they win. Not a lot of side characters outside the missions and the areas. The streets are basically empty. No side encounters or random encounters. Music's pretty nice. Audio's a little iffy at times. Some enemies are bullet sponges for no reason. Creative missions, fun. But other than that, I have no complaints. Maybe Rage 2 steps it up. But Fear looks to be the next game on the list, so we'll be doing that. I'll put up a new poll after this video goes out for the next game. After Fear, that is. Anyway, that's it from me. I will see you later.